Okay, thank you everybody for being here. We are back again for another incredible lecture. We're going to learn so much today from such an inspiring man who has taken health and health freedom to a new level. Dr. Robert O. Young is a research scientist in the field of nutrition, microbiology, and biochemistry, and he is very well known in the field of pH. He is here today to share his wisdom and incredible intellect on bacterial, viral, and infectious disease and the impact of 5G and beyond on coronavirus or SARS-CoV-2. So, Dr. Young, thank you so much for being here. It's our great honor to have you.
Well, it's my pleasure. I'm always happy to share because, from my heart, I really do care. I care about humanity. I care what's going on right now, and I just, feel like people need the knowledge in order to protect themselves from a lot of these ideologies that, of course, don't make a lot of sense. And the reason they don't make a lot of sense is because they're unfounded scientifically. And so I want to introduce you to my world, and what I've been doing for the last 4 decades is watching blood, watching it evolve, watching it under different environments, and also watching it at what we eat, what we drink, what we breathe, what we think, what we feel, and what we believe, how it affects the overall context or environment, and the cell membranes and the genetics, and which we also, when we say the environment, I'm referring to the epigenetics or the environment outside the cell, and just introduce you to also a couple of new concepts. I'd like to introduce a new word for you. Rather than infection, I'd like to introduce a word that I coined many, many years ago to explain what is really going on is an outfection. An outfection with the ideology that germs are born in us and from us based upon pleomorphic or biological transformation of plant, human, or animal matter. And the germs are born in us and from us and are not infectious in nature. They can only contribute to a state of imbalance or to chemical or biological pollution of our internal fluids, of which our body is very able to take care of this in most cases, but in some cases it needs support. So in 2018, I presented with Dr. Galina Migalko. We actually presented our research, which is published, by the way. And I've got 3 articles on this. A second thought about viruses, vaccines, and the HIV/AIDS hypothesis. But I do cover Ebola, and I've been looking at the corona effect, not the coronavirus, because the coronavirus does not exist. What exists is an effect. And I'll show you the electron micrographs and the blood micrographs that actually demonstrate this effect that happens to the membrane. A lot of you have been hearing the words protein spiking. This is just a cellular deterioration of the membrane and the evolution of that membrane as it produces vesicles that break off, and I'll show you some micrographs of that. So we presented this foundational research in 2018. It was very, very timely. We've published this in peer-reviewed journals, and let me just introduce you also to my associate and research scientist, Dr. Galina Migalko. She is a medical doctor, and she's in the field of and specialty in non-invasive medical diagnostics using full body ultrasound, using thermography, and using some new techniques which we have been using, which are very uncommon, but we've been testing the fluids that surround the cell. These fluids are called the interstitial fluids, and it's the largest body of water in our human body, and it is continuous, meaning that anything that goes into these interstitial fluids from the blood or from the cells, it goes everywhere. And of course, a very wonderful, supportive research that was just done that was published in March of this year, showing that in its research, showing that anything that goes in, such as in an inoculation, whatever's in that, will travel through every organ and every organ system. And they used tattoo dye, where they injected it at one point of an isolated entry, and then of course that dye went and contaminated every organ and gland in the human body. So the dye was found in the brain, it was found in the thyroid, it was found in the lungs, it was found in the heart, and of course this is quite concerning when you look at many of the ingredients and the biologicals that are contained within vaccines, or these so-called vaccines, which are actually genetic therapy, or that is being introduced. It's a whole new thing to add memory or software of RNA into a vaccination, which is can potentially alter your own genetic footprint here. So I wanted to introduce you to also a publication that we published, Alkalizing Nutritional Therapy and the Prevention and Reversal of Any Cancerous Condition. Cancer, of course, is a degenerative disease, and of course it's progressive from sensitivities to irritation, to inflammation, to induration, ulceration, and the degeneration. And this is true with any exposure from the environment, if it's air pollution, if it's radioactive or radiation pollution, whether it's radio waves or microwaves or gamma rays. This pollution does affect the membranes of cells and can cause genetic mutation. I'm going to address that a little bit as well. But I want you to understand that cancer is not a disease of the tissues, it's a disease of the fluids. It's continuous through the largest organ of the human body, called the interstitium, which you may or may not be familiar with. It was just accepted as being the largest just a year and a half ago. So it's and being a organ which generally functions to manage and maintain the alkaline design of not just the blood but the intracellular fluids. So this information is there. I'd also like to introduce you to very important research is my biochemistry equations as it relates to the physiology of the stomach. And the physiology of the stomach is not to digest food, but to alkalize the food and also provide alkalinity for the blood and the interstitial fluids. So I've actually mapped out, which has not been done before, the pathology of an upset stomach, which is nothing more than the body's need for sodium bicarbonate, which is the main purpose of the stomach. The main purpose of the stomach is acting as the major contributor of an alkaline compound called sodium bicarbonate. It produces this every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every week, every month of your life. And the ability of that stomach to function to either alkalize the food, not digest the food, because the stomach does not, listen to me carefully, the stomach does not digest food. And it alkalizes. It alkalizes the food to bring it up to an alkaline pH of 8.4. The pancreas helps as it secretes sodium bicarbonate, the gallbladder and bile, which has a pH of 8.4, to prepare it for biological transformation in the crypts of the intestinal villi, that then is converted into erythroblasts, then erythrocytes, and then of course erythrocytes or red blood cells are converted into body cells. So blood is the foundational material that all other cells are created from. So liver is from blood, bone is made from blood, heart is made from blood, and all this blood that is primarily the primary site for the creation is called cord blood, and is created in the core of the body, specifically in the crypts of the intestinal villi. And in that environment, you should have no microbiome. Just a recent study showing that the microbiome and these probiotics are literally causing a disruption within that environment, which I've stated many times, leading to inflammation, induration, degeneration. It's been associated, and they've associated this with increased risk for Parkinson's and also for Alzheimer's. So going on here to one of my dissertations for one of my doctorates, which on pathological blood coagulation. And this is very important to understand, because pathological blood coagulation happens when there is pollutions within the solutions, and that can be radioactive or it can be chemical. And so when we look at the chemicals in the inoculations, we look at the biologicals, which are foreign to the human body. This activates the alkaline buffering system and also activates the red blood cells, which is either absorbing waste or absorbing radiation. And this is one of the main reasons it causes holes within the red blood cells. And at a pulsating rate at 2.4 gigahertz up to 8 point, which is basically fifth generation or fourth generation of EMF, but it happens, in first, second, or third. These pulsating vibrational frequencies are disturbing to the body cells. And of course, the cells that are absorbing this is hemoglobin of the red blood cells, which causes hemoglobin or deficiencies or in the amount of hemoglobin, which is, of course, the major molecule for carrying oxygen and removing carbon dioxide from the body. So you become deficient due to radiation poisoning. Chemical poisoning, of course, is also if the stomach is not producing enough sodium bicarbonate to alkalize that particular toxin. It could be lactic acid, it could be uric acid from meat, it could be over-exercising, producing excess amounts of lactic acid, it'd be taking vitamin C, which increases an acid called citric acid. These are major causes of a cancerous or degenerative condition. So in pathological blood coagulation, I'm going to explain to you the pathology in that pathological blood coagulation happens when there's injury due to chemical and radiation pollution, which then causes clots. And this is what we're finding in all autopsies of those who have died theoretically from a so-called infection, but it's actually been an outfection as we have a deterioration of the blood, a loss of surface charge, a clotting of the blood, which then doesn't allow the blood to go into the pulmonary circulation, to the pulmonary capillaries to dump its carbon dioxide and to pick up oxygen, life-saving oxygen, to return back to the body. And so what is happening in these autopsies is we're seeing dilation of the peripheral vascular system. And the reason for that is the blood is now turning away from the lung because it can't get oxygen and looking to the extremities, even towards the skin. And this is a terrible thing that's happening. But the bottom line to all this is that people do not die from an infection. They die from an outfection, pathological blood coagulation, which leads to hypoxia. And from hypoxia, which is oxygen deprivation, and a buildup of carbon dioxide leads to suffocation. So it's death by suffocation that's initiated from radiation, chemical poisoning, and the inoculation, which kind of sets this whole plan into motion. So when we're looking at bacterial, viral, and infectious diseases, they're not infectious at all. We're dealing with outfection. So bacteria and yeast and mold are only biological transformations of what were once healthy body cells. The Latin word for virus means poison. The Latin word for corona, which is the corona flare, is radiation. So what you have when you put the two English words together and the meaning of the coronavirus, the literal meaning is radiation poisoning. A virus infection is a condition of the body fluids and not the cells. What I'm saying here is the virus is the poison, whatever poison it's being to deliver. Now, many years ago, I was using protomorphogens and glandulars as a bus to drive vitamins, minerals, and cell salts. And using radioactive isotopes, I was able to literally trace where the body was taking those particular supplements, those particular nutrients of vitamins, minerals, herbs, and tissue salts, because they were tagged to a radioactive isotope. As I followed this, if I had the bus of a genetic matter of either RNA and DNA or both of a particular organ, like a liver, if I attached that biological to these herbs, that would drive all of the nutrition to that particular organ. And this is what science understands. But what is the intention? You can either use this for good or you can use this for evil. So when you use matter as a carrying agent, as a driver, okay, you can drive whatever you want. So if you want to drive hydrogen arsenic, or if you want to drive titanium dioxide or aluminum oxide or dioxides, you can drive that to the brain. You can drive it specifically to the lung. You could drive it. I know this. I've known it for over 4 decades. And I've been doing this, and I actually, in a positive way, to help support pancreases, to help support lungs and livers, and using in dire situation protomorphogens or glandulars as a carrying agent, the genetic matter of a specific organ to actually drive that nutrition. So this is known by science. It's being used by bad actors and Luciferians for very devious reasons. And some of those, without speaking them openly, you already know. So the virus is a poison. It causes a compromise in the alkaline design of the body fluids, particularly the interstitial fluids. As the blood tries to purify itself, as the cells try to purify themselves, everything dumps to this septic tank, to these compartments called the interstitial fluid compartments. So we're talking about now epigenetics. So genetics does not determine your destiny. Epigenetics, or the environment, determines your destiny and how you monitor that. So the environment determines the expression of the genetics. Therefore, it is the environment outside the cell, or the condition of the interstitial fluids that surround the cell, determines the genetic expression or the destiny of the cell. If you want cells to be healthy, you have to manage and maintain the interstitial fluids at a pH of 8.4. Yes, you heard me correctly. A pH of 8.4. How can I test that? If I can't find a doctor, who you will not be able to find, a doctor who can test these interstitial fluids, they don't even know about this per se. They haven't been taught about this, and they surely don't have the diagnostic tools to actually test it and quantify these numbers as it relates to the biochemistry of these particular fluids. And what we're talking about is 80% of the extracellular fluids. And that's a major amount of information that is totally excluded, because only thing that's being tested currently, not the only thing, but the major thing that's being tested is the vascular fluids, which represents only 10 to 20% of the information. You literally are blocking out, if a person is losing bone mass and is hypercalcemia, that shows up first in the interstitial fluids and not in the blood. So you could have perfect calcium levels, but you're losing bone, you're in osteopenia, and you wouldn't even know it until it shows up in the blood. And it only shows up in the blood when there's a pushback of overacidity of the interstitial fluids, that reverses, from the pressure reverses it going back into the blood, and then you see these deficiencies. It's too late generally. You can stop this and nip this in the bud, as the English would say, very quickly. So a viral condition, be very clear, is not a biological condition. It's an acidic condition of the fluids of the body. A bacterial condition or infection is an environmental condition. Bacteria is a breakdown product. It's a symptom. So infectious can be measured by testing the chemistry, including the pH of the interstitial of the fluids of the interstitium, either through our method, attaching electrodes, running current frequencies through the body to pick up this information from the interstitium. We also do this with blood without pulling out any fluid from the body. We can do this by just attaching the electrodes. The other simple way for you at home that want to do this, you can get some pH hydrant paper, okay? pH hydrant paper, and test the urine. Most of you are going to show pHs between 5.5 and 6.5. This is the dis-ease pH. You need to be at least 7.2, and ideally, for ideals, prevention and reversal of any condition, you have to be at an 8.4, never dropping below 7.8. So in acute, then, infectious diseases, which are outfectious, the pH of the interstitial fluids of the interstitium and the pH of the blood will show metabolic, dietary, environmental, or respiratory decompensated acidosis. And decompensated acidosis, it's a very fine line, particularly for the blood, because the ideal pH of the blood is at 7.365. You start feeling symptoms at 7.265, and you're dead at 7.1. So we're talking about a change in the blood pH between 7.5 to 0.2.5 to 0.3 tenths of 1 point. You're in trouble. And most people are in trouble, and they wonder why they have symptoms. You have symptoms disease, not because of what you're being told, because what you're being told isn't the entire picture. It is not the entire movie. You've lost 80% of the information. So when we look at these interstitial fluids, when we're talking about polio, measles, Zika, cytomegalovirus, HPV, HIV, the coronavirus, these are all acidic conditions. The answer is not found in the blood. So doing PCR testing is useless. It's worthless. It is non-specific. The amounts of amplifications and cycles that are being used are totally unscientific. Ideally, you should only do 15 to 16 cycles. They're trying to find anything in order to increase the caseload, but they can't increase the death load unless they introduce the poison through inoculation. So the answer is found in the chemistry of the interstitial fluids, of the interstitial, the intracellular fluids, and the extracellular fluids. Of course, that makes up 100% of all body fluids. The major fluid being the interstitial fluids. So you have to test this, and there's ways to do this. And urine is a direct fluid from the interstitial fluid that passes from the interstitial fluids to the lymphatic system and then out through perspiration or urination. So here's the foundational postulates of my theory, that the human body in perfect health, pH, perfect health, is alkaline by design, that all body functions are acidifying to the blood and especially the interstitial fluids. What are body functions? That's metabolic acid. What is major metabolic acid? Citric acid, lactic acid. A very good reason not to be taking vitamin C or doing vitamin C IVs, unless you want to poison yourself. The interstitial fluids are damaged by this. Yes, you may be constipated and taking vitamin C, and it provides, a breakdown of some of the undigested matter, but it's totally ridiculous. And the findings and the determinations on vitamin C are literally back-assed because scientists are not testing 100% of the body fluids. They come up with conclusions that are based upon 10 to 20% of the information. So the single most important factor in maintaining good health is managing and maintaining the delicate pH balance of the interstitial fluids, because if you're compromised in the blood, if you go into alkalosis, that's the body in a defensive mechanism to neutralize or to buffer. It's called the teeter-totter effect, to buffer excess acidity in the interstitial fluid. And who's responsible for this? Or what organ is responsible for this? I mean, ultimately, you are responsible because all disease is a consequence of personal lifestyle and dietary choice. So the first most important factor in maintaining good health is managing and maintaining the delicate pH balance of the interstitial fluids. You can do that by testing the urine. The ideal pH of the urine is what? 8.4. That is the pH of healing. What is the pH of the interstitial of the intestinal tract? 8.4. What pulls that down? Enzymes, probiotics, fermented foods, vinegar. God forbid you're taking vinegar. Vinegar is acetaldehyde. It's a poison. I mean, this is crazy on both on the natural side and the medical side. I mean, it's just a total lack of understanding. So when we understand that cells are altering their I mean, you can see the corona effect in this pleomorphic changes. You can see what's happening. I mean, I see this. I mean, it's like a breath of fresh air if I see anybody that's walking on the planet when I look at their blood that's normal. Normal is not even looked at. It's not even considered anatomically until after a fact, or if there's a symptom. And then, of course, if you have blood disorders, then you get diagnosed with a false disease called leukemia. So this is what pathological blood coagulation with an electron microscope. Metabolic acids that are not being properly eliminated, or dietary acids that are going into the blood or into the interstitial, is causing a breakdown of the cells, causing cells to become sticky. You go into pathological blood coagulation, or the solutions either from chemical or radiation poisoning or inoculation or destroying the endothelial cells, or the protective cells, or the lining of the arteries or veins, destroying the single cell capillary walls. And the body wants to stop internal bleeding, so it starts coagulating. That's why in all autopsies, we're seeing clots everywhere in the body, everywhere. And this is what pathological or disseminated intravascular coagulation looks like. So once again, as I repeat, you've got intracellular, you've got interstitial fluids, and you've got blood. And 80% of the interstitial fluids is outside the blood, outside the fluids within the cells. And this is not being measured, and it needs to be. And you can do this on your own by just with some pH hydrant paper. So the key here is, so what is causing the symptoms of COVID? And the release of, let's say, protein spiking, what are called vesicles, or exosomes. These are just symptoms of cellular breakdown. They're not viral. I mean, protein spikes don't kill you. They're just snippets of genetic matter coming off the cell membrane due to a polluted environment. See, the dialogue needs to change. It has to go contextual, it has to go environmental. Fish are only healthy in the ocean if the ocean is salty at a pH of 8.4, which is now dropped to 8.3. And if it drops to 8.1, you're going to see dead fish on the beach. But the reason why we have loss of coral reef in Australia and the damage to the forests in Alaska, the forests of Denali, is because of acid rain. Well, what is the acid? The acid is carbon monoxide. Well, what is the acid rain within ourselves? We refer to this as body warming. The ocean is absorbing the atmospheric waste, and it's deteriorating the skeletal system of the ocean, and that's why we have loss of coral calcium. On the other hand, we've got body warming and acid rain on the internal environment, and you're losing your bones and your muscles and becoming the incredible shrinking people because you don't understand this is not a organ gland problem. This is an environmental problem. So the question then comes to this. What would you do? Would you treat the fish or would you change the water? Once again, what would you do? If you are having a dis-ease, would you treat the cells? Would you treat the fish? Or would you change the environment? Now, the disease that people are suffering from are ignorance, and that can be by omission or commission. But the treatment for this is common sense. So put on your common sense hat and ask yourself this question. What would you do? Are you going to follow your doctor's advice and take treatment of the cells and the organs? Or are you going to change the environment, which is out of sight and out of mind by the medical community worldwide? So this is what healthy blood looks like. This is what coagulation looks like. This is called rouleau. It's a French word meaning chaining. This is when cells have lost their electrical charge because of chemical or radiation poisoning. This is what carbon monoxide looks like in the blood when it's been crystallized. This stuff is real. And guess what? If you're having any symptoms associated with an acidic condition, it goes in this stage. Enervation, sensitivities, irritation, inflammation, induration, ulceration, and degeneration. There's only one sickness and one disease, and that's the overacidification of the blood and tissues and the interstitial fluids due to an inverted way of living, eating, thinking, breathing. You see, you are the cause of your condition. And when you take ownership of it and start educating and empowering yourself, you can reverse it. The only person you can rely upon is yourself. The only person that should be treating you is yourself. The only one that should have the knowledge and power is yourself, and this should be free. That's why I'm doing this discussion, because this information needs to go worldwide. You are the change you want to see. You are the cure you want to see. Stop relying on fake science. I spotted the coronavirus, radiation poisoning. There it is. This is what it looks at. There's the computer chip. COVID-19. They even mark it. That's how bold these people are. This is what we're being exposed to. It's 100 times more toxic than smoking cigarettes. So if you're smoking 2 or 3 packs a day, times that by 100. Electromagnetic fields are destroying the hemoglobin, which is the second in line of immunity to protect us from radiation and chemical poisoning. It's your red blood cells that absorb the lactic acid. It's the red blood cells that absorb the radiation. And you have to protect yourself from that. You do that by protecting the environment. We all know what a corona flare looks like. Radiation. Corona is a flare of radiation poisoning. You see, and we learn this even with polio. We know that chemical poisoning was decreased in the 50s and literally went away when they stopped poisoning us with DDT. The health people, the people that are educated beyond their intelligence. DDT is the cause of polio. Well, you change the name. Now we could put another name to it, glyphosate. How else does Monsanto want to poison us? With pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, chemical poisoning. They even sprayed it on people in schools and on the streets. It's totally insane. And what is going on today is totally insane. So if you want to protect yourself against acids, you have to focus on the interstitial fluids of the body. You have to manage that. You have to, it's the answers are found there. The genesis of good health is found in the interstitium. The genesis of all sickness and disease is found in the interstitial fluid. That has to be measured every day. Yes, we do a full spectrum. We published it in 2015. We diagrammed all of the electrolytes, all of the aminos, all of the things you see in the blood, which you see also in the interstitial fluids. And we compared those to the vascular fluids, to the intracellular fluids, so that people could understand that this thing is orchestrated, body orchestrated by a bundle of cells called the nucleus of totalis solitarius astrocytes, these bundle of brain cells that are in the brain stem that controls the biochemistry of the body, that controls the stomach, start producing sodium bicarbonate. You were just poisoned with that food you just ate, or that inoculation that you had, or from the air that you just took in. Once again, this is what normal blood looks like. And this is what happens with radiation. At 50 to 60, you can see what's happening. People are getting lightheaded. They're getting dizzy. And here again, you go from 10 gigahertz up to 60. It totally takes out 90% of your energy and oxygen. And so these are the things that we know. And we're talking about 5G at 30 gigahertz. Your microwave operates at 2.4 gigahertz. 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G is operating at 2.4 gigahertz. So it's a microwave. And at 50 and 60 and beyond, it's just people are going to be falling over, are suffocating because they can't get enough oxygen in their body, and their blood starts altering. All of a sudden the body tries to protect itself, so it starts chelating or buffering lactic acid and citric acid, forming lactic and citric acid stones, which are found throughout the body in any degenerative condition. And this is what the corona effect looks like. And I see this in everyone's body to a lesser or greater degree. You can see the chronine effect due to, here again, diet and lifestyle. And here's some more. And we pleomorphic activity as a red blood cell gives birth to bacteria. These are things that are happening. In an electron microscope, you can actually see the protein spikes coming off these cells. And then as they break off, of course, that's what the PCR testing is picking up. It's picking up your own, vesicles or DNA or genetic matter, RNA, from off the cellular breakdown. It's not due to an infection. It's an outfection, as these are given birth from the inside out, not the outside in. From blood coagulation, this is what it looks like under an electron micrograph, to damage of the white blood cells who are trying to pick up the biological fragments, and as the lymphocytes are trying to secrete reduced hydrogen or reduced oxygen, that's O1 and H1, or O negative and H negative, in order to maintain the alkaline design of the body. The white blood cells are in fourth in line as it relates to protecting and providing true immunity. And so this is what happens when you look under phase contrast. You see the thrombosis, you see the fibrin nets, you see the damage to the red blood cell membranes, causing acanthocytosis, and what I have coined and call the corona effect, which I have seen for the last 40 years. This is nothing new, folks. This is just a new fairy tale that the big bad wolf is telling you, so that as Little Red Riding Hood, as a metaphor, you can be literally destroyed from these recommendations. Once again, a micrograph of targeted red blood cells, as red blood cells either take up these wastes or radiation, and the hemoglobin is wasted, and of course that causes deficiencies in hemoglobin. And what is the effect of this? Of course, as we look at the pulmonary capillaries, red blood cells have to travel into the capillary single file to drop their carbon dioxide and produce and to pick up oxygen. This stops when you're in pathological blood coagulation, because it has to go in single file, and it can't get in there if it's like this and like this or like this or like this. And this is 99% of the people on the planet. So you're all at risk, every one of you, unless you're conscious about maintaining the integrity of the membranes by not focusing on any disease, which is nothing more than the symptomology, but focusing on managing and maintaining the alkaline design of the body fluids, of which you're now testing the urine pH. And of course, you want to do this because the common symptoms of radiation poisoning are fever, dry cough, and fatigue. And the fever is nothing more than the body increasing temperature to force expulsion of metabolic, dietary, environmental waste. The flu is not a viral thing. The flu is the body's way of overcoming the consequences of your poor choices. The over-acidification, it happens in the winter months, or it happens in the seasonal months. It's seasonal because you eat more crap, you eat more highly toxic food, you drink more alcohol. You know, when you're talking about Halloween, Thanksgiving, and then you got Hanukkah, and then you've got Christmas, and then you have New Year's, and it's fortunate you're not dead after all that. I mean, the real disease is I eat too much shit disease. And you take all this in and you expect your body to deal with it. All you have to do is test the pH. You'll see the effects of a cup of cancer. Oh, wait a minute, that's called a cup of coffee. You know, and you think I'm being blunt? I'm being extremely blunt because you're running out of time. And if you then jump to, you know, the second or third wave, which is not viral, it's radiation poisoning. When they say wave, you know, the causes of oxidation poisoning, this is my published paper, is of COV2, or now named 12 or 19, and let's name it 21 now, whatever it is. This is a fake, non-existent phantom virus. What exists are the symptoms, but it's never been isolated. It's never been cultured. Okay. Oh, excuse me. It's never been purified and then shown to cause these symptoms. The reason why is because, and I've got the letters from all the different countries from around the world where we've asked them under the Freedom of Information Act, have you isolated this virus? And if you have, can you send us the information? Haven't got it from a single country. And if you go to drrobertyoung.com, you can see these letters and read these letters and the way they skirt the question. They won't answer it. And the reason they won't answer is because they don't have the information to give. Science doesn't have it because this is an agenda. It's global genetic genocide. That's the agenda. And so when you look at this publication, you're going to get a lot of this information that I talk about. But this is the key. You have to maintain the integrity of the internal environment, and you have to have a lifestyle and diet that's producing healthy blood. So you need to fire your doctor and hire 7 new doctors. Dr. Chlorophyll, Dr. Oxygen, Dr. Oil, Dr. Water, Dr. Salt, Dr. Sunshine, and Dr. Sexercise. And you take these 7 doctors and you understand the types and forms of support that you need within that general category, and take your head out of the sand. Yes, we are being not only radiated, but we're also, there's chemtrails. And these chemtrails, we have studied and we have seen the transgenetic, fibers or transhuman fibers that are not only just being thrown out into the atmosphere, but are in the face masks. They're on the Q-tip. These are not tests. These are inoculations. So I encourage you to read the published papers by Dr. Galina Magalko and myself, to read our books, the pH Miracle for Cancer, the pH Miracle Revised and Updated. Focus on chapter 5 and 11. And that's pretty much just a summation of what I wanted to share. I know I went very, very fast, and I know you probably have more questions than you started with, but those answers are there. You can go to Rumble. I've got 35 videos in the last 10, 15 days of interviews that I've done there. And you just under Dr. Robert Young, under Rumble. You can go to YouTube and watch over 1,000 videos from documentaries. A new documentary that just came out, Thrive 1. It's been seen, Thrive 1 came out in 2012. It's been seen by over 100 million people. Thrive 2 is the sequel to that. That is now available under thrive2.com, which you can find this and you can watch it for free. Great information, but there's documentaries, there's interviews, there's books, there's publications. All of this is available to you, for free. Why is it free? It's free because this information is that important. It needs to go out to the masses. So watch, listen, read, ponder, pray, begin caring. And if you truly care, you'll begin sharing this incredible message of hope that you can manage and maintain your internal environment free from any sickness or disease. You can manage this through an alkaline lifestyle and diet, which I call pH Miracle. And the reason I call it miracle, because current medical science doesn't understand the difference between cause and effect relationships. And what is being done right now in the medical field, okay, and the health field, is people are being told that these are diseases, which in reality they're symptoms of an overacidic environment, and they don't know how to treat this thing because they're looking at the trees rather than standing back and checking out the context or the environment. So the answers are found in the interstitial fluids. Learn about this organ. Read some of the latest research of my own and other scientists that are published on this particular subject. And with that, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity of sharing and caring, because I truly do. Hopefully, you've learned something new that you haven't known, or maybe answered a question you have. If I can take for a few minutes, I can take a few questions if you have a question you would like to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. That was great. I was I was texting Judy Mikovits as I was like, he's amazing. She's like, he is. I have a few questions if you don't mind. So we were talking about pH as an indicator of infection. At what level, when you're measuring your urine, do you start seeing issues within the interstitial fluid or infection, as you would say?
Okay, outfection.
Outfection. Okay, I'm going to use your new word. I'm sorry.
Yeah, infection suggests the theoretical false theory that disease from the outside world causes disease. Now, look, if you're exposed to a gas like Agent Orange,
right,
great. That is going to affect your internal environment. And guess what's going to happen? It's going to break down some membrane, cause genetic mutation. And so if you're exposed to radiation, gamma radiation poisoning from Chernobyl or Fukushima, you're altering the environment. So the environment does affect you. but you have buffers there to protect yourself. So what happens is what you're seeing are is viral. It's either radiation or chemical poisoning, and the breakdown of the cell membranes and the genetic mutation is taking place because of contributing factors. Those contributing factors can be environmental, diet, or they can be metabolic, they can be respiratory, okay? They can also be your thoughts, your words, and your deeds. Even your thoughts produce acids that can make you sick. People know that. You know, they know that if they're looping something over and over again, that they don't feel good. So this infection, so to answer your question, the pH of the body fluids have ebbs and tides like the ocean. Mm-hmm. So the tide for acidity is 3 a.m. in the morning till 3 p.m. in the afternoon. The tide for alkalinity is 3 p.m. in the afternoon to 3 a.m. in the morning. The most acidic time of the day that you need to check and be there all the time throughout the day at 7.8 or greater is at 8.4. So at 8.4, if you're alkaline, which I'll guarantee you, if you test your pH, if you don't know this information and you're eating what most people eat and doing most treatments out there, both either natural or medical treatments, your pH is going to be running between 5.5 and 6.5 first urine. Second urine may come up a little bit, but you're not even going to get to the ideal pH of 8.4 unless you consciously support the stomach in producing sodium bicarbonate. So sodium potassium bicarbonate, which is naturally produced by the stomach, either is used to alkalize foods or push back into the blood and the interstitium to protect the cells, to protect the blood, okay? Mm-hmm. And so if you have an upset stomach, and this is the pathology of an upset stomach, that is not too much acid. That's too little alkalinity. That's the need for more sodium bicarbonate. So the stomach has to produce if you're living in acidic. So if you're an alcoholic, if you're abusing drugs, if you're emotionally misfit, in other words, in your head all the time, and you're stressed out all the time, these are contributing factors. And then you top that off with exposure to radiation poisoning from Wi-Fi, from the electrical car that you bought, which is a cancer car. There's no such thing as a healthy electrical car, folks. They're producing magnetic fields that cause cancer. I mean, who determined that? The Environmental Protection Agency in 1964 said that anything over 3 milligauss is cancer causing. Take your trimeter, test it. Your trimeter will show that these cars are testing out at 50 to 100 to 300 milligauss. And the reason why people, when they go on planes, feel sick and tired is because you've been exposed to a radiation that is literally debilitating. Doesn't matter whether you're in first class and you're laying down and sleeping. You walk off like you're half drunk, dizzy, and lightheaded, and your feet are swollen. Why? Because you're in pathological blood coagulation caused by the environment which you subjected yourself to. And you're not drinking enough, so drink alkaline water. Drink greens, protect. So you have to test the pH. And the most ideal time to test it is anytime you urinate, but the timing of this is first thing in the morning. And then you take an alkalizing dose, just as if you were taking care of a swimming pool. You need to shock the pool with alkalinity. So you do that with 4 salts, and that's sodium compounds: sodium, potassium bicarbonate, magnesium, and calcium. A little calcium, magnesium, but it's a combination, which many years I created, called 4 salts. And this, people don't understand. If you understand spirituality, it's the glue that holds us together. That's when you go to critical care or emergency. What do they hook you up to?
An IV.
IV of what?
Salt. Right, salt.
Yeah, but the doctor just before told you to get off salt. Yeah, saline. They tell you to get off salt. Wait a minute. That's
the most backwards thing. Yeah, I always say that. People come in, I have high blood pressure. I've avoided all foods with salts. Oh, good.
You avoid sugar. Sugar is a metabolic waste. Sugar is a metabolic waste. Okay, it's great for bananas when they get sweeter and sweeter to make banana bread, but that's it. Even the banana bread's not good for you. And bananas are only good for monkeys, unless you want to act like one. So you want to be attuned to your internal environment. You need to protect it. You need to take care of it. Guess what? Nobody else is going to do that. I'm not going to do that for you. You have to do that for yourself. And the simple, for $10, $15 investment, you can start testing the pH and you can start doing something about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Can you map the degradation pathway that you went through?
The degradation pathway is as the pH goes down, that affects the cell membrane. As the cell membrane starts crenating, it starts breaking down. Acids can permeate the cell brain and cellular interruption, and electrical activity. What happens to protect the cells start eliminating antioxidants like glutathione. It starts releasing exosomes to buffer or activate the clotting factors. Once the clotting factors are activated, they produce fibrin monomers or fibrinogen to fibrin spicules, which cross-link to stop internal bleeding or to protect any injury due to the excess acidity. And of course, once you're in pathological blood coagulation, that causes poor circulation. When you have poor circulation, you can't dump the carbon dioxide, and so you go into hypoxia. When you go into hypoxia, that causes suffocation. So it's death by suffocation due to your lifestyle and dietary and environmental choices that you're making that's compromising that internal environment. You can protect yourself from radiation. You can protect yourself from chemical poisoning. You just need the antidote. I know the antidote. You now know the antidote. The antidote is inexpensive. It's called sodium bicarbonate. It's on the front line of managing and maintaining alkalinity. And when the stomach produces it, you feel it because you end up with a belly full of acid. And when those who are doing chemotherapy throw up, because as soon as you take chemotherapy, the stomach starts producing sodium bicarbonate to alkalize that poison. You end up with a belly full of hydrochloric acid, and that's why you throw up. During morning sickness, the same way. When you're pregnant, you're producing more acid because you're building a baby, you're growing a fetus, and in doing that, you're producing double the amount of acid. The body needs more sodium bicarbonate. You end up with a belly full of hydrochloric acid, and you're in the toilet throwing up. Nova's described the pathology of an upset stomach. The upset stomach is not the need for acidity. So what you do to protect yourself, you discontinue all enzymes. You discontinue all probiotics. You discontinue all fermented foods. You eliminate vinegar. These are poisons, folks. You need to flip your intelligence on this and use your common sense and protect yourself before you end up killing yourself. This is assisted suicide that's going on, and we're allowing things to happen to us. Our freedoms are being taken away from us, and we need to take back our bodies because it is our body, our life, and it should be our choice.
Absolutely. I love your passion. And I loved your statement, I ate too much shit disease. That was good.
Well,
such a good summation.
Yeah, it's what you eat, what you drink, what you breathe, what you think, what you feel, and what you. These are the contributing factors. Not allow anyone to violate your property, and that's your physicality, and to disconnect you from your consciousness, which is your spirit. Because and if anybody tells you to reduce your salt, say thank you very much. You reduce your salt. I'm leaving.
So can everybody find your book on your website, the drrobertyoung.com?
No, you can find books at phmiracleproducts.com.
Okay.
So that's phmiracleproducts.com. You can find more information. If you want the science, if you want the links for all this information, if you want to go to our scientific article page or to our blog, that's drrobertyoung.com. The information's free, and I believe this is the way it should be. So that's why I'm doing this interview, this conversation.
Absolutely.
Because more people to know this. The more that know it, the stronger we get in our understanding and intelligence. If I can save one soul, it has been worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we appreciate you sharing all of your knowledge and your wisdom with us today. I love it. I was talking to my friend Judy, and she said, this is our current day AIDS. It's not really a thing. It's an expression of a thing. It's an expression of our lifestyle. So I think we're all kind of getting to the same song. It's just, I wish everybody would listen to it, that trying to change the world and the world's indoctrination of the quick fix. And, there's a big bad virus out there coming to get you. It's hard to overcome. So I hope people are tuning in and listening to all of these health professionals, these experts, is the real science,
Well, you need to be the change you want to see. You need to accept responsibility. You are the cause of your own disease. Quit blaming it on a fake virus. It doesn't exist, folks. Get over it.
So someone had a question about probiotics. Why no probiotics? They want to know.
Because it disrupts the alkaline design of and the pH of the because digestion doesn't take place anywhere in the alimentary canal. The core blood is created in the gut, in the crypts of the intestinal villi. When you put probiotics in there, particularly from animal sources or plant sources, wherever it's coming from, there's no such thing as good bacteria. All you're doing is taking in the morbid biological transformations of plant, human, and it's foreign. And so you don't want to disrupt the alkaline design of the intestinal area, the environment, which covers 7,200 square feet. 27 feet long, but yeah, 7,200 square feet surface area. And the appendages that come out there, that's your root system. And you destroy that with probiotics. You destroy it with enzymes. You destroy it with vinegar. And this is when you get sick. So I got 2 words that that are important. If you want to get over this and you want to move forward, then the 2 words is stop it. Stop hurting yourself. Start alkalizing. The other 2 words. Start realizing that you're only as healthy as the environment in which your cells live. Stop treating symptoms. Start protecting the environment of the internal, both externally and internally. And that's my advice for today.
And you do have a product that you said you developed that have the core 4 in them.
Yeah.
Is there any other things that you like for 4 salts? And then you said you also,
for circulation,
as for an alkaline.
Yeah.
For alkalinity, what do you like?
Well, I like sodium chloride, which is NaClO2 that releases 2 atoms of Nafion oxygen or singlet oxygen. I wrote the bestseller and the #1 book in biochemistry on sodium chloride and chlorine dioxide many, many years ago. But you can find that book at phmiracleproducts.com.
Okay.
I mean, I just want everybody to know I'm not selling anything. Okay.
That's okay.
I just. I'm free from that distraction, okay? And I want people to have this information, and so I'm grateful for people that are selling and supporting this. But my main thing is education, not medication. We need more education, vaccination. We need not sick care. We need true health care. You need to fire your doctor. You need to cancel your health insurance. And you need to take out an accident policy, because if you get injured in a car or if you get hurt, yes, you need to go to the emergency room. But as it relates to sickness and disease, forget it. They're on the wrong path,
Right.
And all I'm trying to do is kind of help people to understand this, that you need to take this knowledge and you need to be responsible and literally take charge of thriving rather than surviving. And this truth can change and improve the quality and quantity of your life. I don't think this, I know this.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Young. This has been truly enlightening. And thank you, everybody, for coming in today. Robert Scott Bell said something very profound the time we lectured together. He said, the most dangerous thing somebody can have is a really good health insurance policy, because they're going to max it out. So those words stuck with Joe Messino and I, and we were like, wow, isn't that the truth? You go to the hospital and they just see that as like a letter of gold, and they can do whatever they want and apply all the medications they want, and it gets covered by your health insurance. And
well, we know
that
we know that by ventilators that cause 90% of the deaths in the elderly. I mean, but they got a bonus for doing it.
Absolutely.
And they get another bonus if they put death by COVID rather than the real cause.
Right, exactly.
And you don't die from COVID. You die from what is called the corona effect due to radiation and chemical poisoning. And that could be the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat, to the inoculation you just had, to the tests you just did. You're not protecting yourself. You need this knowledge to protect yourself. So with that, I need to leave, but
that's fine. Best. Thank you so much, Dr. Young. Have a great day. Thank you again.
Take care.
Thank you.
By the way, how do we get a copy? Do we get a copy and send it out, or how does it work?
I'll download it for you, and I'll have it sent to you raw file. And yes, it's on YouTube. It's everywhere. So we have it going multiple areas, but I'll get you a raw file.
All right.
All right, sir. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
All
God
the
bless
best.
you. God
Bye
bless
bye.
you.